Hello, all of you Regs and all of you Shinies. Welcome back to the 1313 podcast. This is the most mediocre podcast in the Star Wars universe. I'm Jackson.
I'm Tommy.
And y'all didn't throw enough money our way. You didn't throw enough bands to help a homie out because now we don't got Jacob. Give us some more money. Maybe he'll be back next week. Tommy, how are you doing right now?
I'm doing quite swimmingly. I have a pile of items I need to review beneath me, so keep in touch with our channel so you can see all those reviews. Tika's Trading Post, we covered all the SDCC reveals for all the Star Wars stuff. If you want to go check that out. Also go check out our latest Have a Chat episode with the master of yapping himself, the Zoo Boy. I told him when we started, I said, hey, this is going to be like an hour. Turned into 2 hours. Kind of knew that was going to happen. But yeah, lots of content. I know Jackson's got some ideas for videos coming out soon. So just we're keeping up with everything. I also decided spontaneously to just move my computer to the other side of my desk so you can view a different angle of my room here. So if you don't watch on YouTube or Spotify, you don't know what I'm talking about. But yeah, other than that, I mean, we've been doing – the channel has been doing really well. Again, our numbers have been performing the best they ever have. So it's really excited for ICC Con, meet up with everybody. And they just announced another guest, the Sand Trooper that says move along in A New Hope. That's pretty cool.
Tom, are you copping that signature?
I don't know because I wasn't going to. I'll have to see what his signature price is because I do have two Power of the Force Sand Troopers, like that one on card. One is like a holographic card back and one is regular. So we'll see. Who knows?
Yeah. No, that'll be cool. I mean, that's one that I'm honestly really debating just because it's a really funny instance as to have that guy in the Black Series orange package Sand Trooper has the scene on the back. So it's like, oh, it's him.
Oh, neato. Yeah.
Yeah. So I might do that. But in my land right now, got my blaster painted silver. Right after we're done shooting, I'm going to hit it with a coat of black paint. And then that will be the last of the repairs that I needed to do on my suit to fix it. Maybe next weekend, I might be meeting up with some Garrison people to do a photo shoot on one of the beaches, which would be really cool. But we'll have to see if that comes to fruition and what time it is and etc. But yeah, like Tommy said, trying to get some more video content out. I have some interest from some local creators here in Hawaii that want to do some Have-A Chats. So maybe we'll get some people on my end that want to do that. So that would be pretty cool. I was trying to think if anything else important happened this week that I did. No, I really want to see Deadpool, but I haven't seen it yet.
I really want to see that movie too. All my friends have seen it, and they're like, "Dude, it's a really, really good movie," which I expect because the first two I really enjoyed.
See, yeah, that's where I'm at too. Maya comes home in 2 days from Korea, and she left as soon as the movie came out. So I was really upset about that, not being able to see it opening night. So I've completely stayed away from spoilers. So really, really hyped on that.
Nice. Yeah, I definitely got everything spoiled. So
you always get everything spoiled for Marvel, though.
Yeah, it always just happens. I'm like, I don't talk about Marvel. I don't watch Marvel barely at all anymore. But for some reason, every time a Marvel thing comes out, immediately.
He's muting himself.
Immediately as the movie comes out, I get all the spoilers of the people just recording in the theater the craziest parts of the movie. So anyways, just ridiculous stuff. So Jackson, we had SDCC this past weekend.
We did.
Hasbro had a panel. Hot Toys had a bunch of reveals. No real Star Wars news that came out of the con for main
I'm surprised about that too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, I mean, was there anything stand out to you from this weekend that you're either going to pick up or you're excited to check out?
I mean, the battle drone on the staff was a shocker. Oh, crap, because I didn't follow the news. Did the Darth Maul on the bike come out?
No. Apparently, the rumor mill is that it's going to go up for pre-order on the 5th.
Okay, because I really wanted to get the Darth Maul because I was like, okay, that's just super iconic and it's awesome. You have to get that. And then the droid on the staff is killer too. But the worst part is that it's in that exclusive packaging. So it's like, do I take it out? Do I not take it out? But that was really cool. I had some buddies that were at Comic-Con and they were taking photos of the con after parties too. And it looked pretty dope. But one of our people in the garrison here was taking like really, really in-depth photos because they had the costumes and props out from the Acolyte.
That's
so
cool.
Stranger and May and all the Jedi's like lightsabers and stuff. So not just him, but a ton of people were getting like really in-depth photos because now a lot of people want to be the first to get the Stranger suit done, which would be pretty cool.
Yeah, it's coming. There's going to be a flood of people wanting to do that.
Oh, absolutely. That's really cool. It's trying to remember anything else from Hot Toys, but I thought there was.
I did pre-order General Grievous.
Yeah, okay. I knew you were going to get the General Grievous. That was just a given. It wasn't a, guys, should I really get this? You were just looking for confirmation bias on the thing that you will purchase. But,
yeah, I knew I was going to pre-order him. He doesn't come out till like, I think the second half of 2025, so.
Yeah, and that's what I thought too. So, plenty of time. I got the payment plan. It's perfect. No complaints there.
He makes the 8th hot toy that I have on pre-order right now. Yikes.
Yikes.
For me, probably the most exciting thing was the pipeline reveals for the Black Series from Hasbro.
Oh my gosh, how could I forget? That was amazing.
Yeah, dude. Between seeing, my biggest one was the Commando droid. That was because we've gotten a lot of factory leaks recently. So some of the stuff that was on the pipeline, like it was like, oh, that's cool. But like, I already knew that was coming, like Bakara and Prince Caesar. But when they put out Commando droid, I was on the phone with Hunter, like, because Hunter was like, hey, let me know what gets revealed, like, as the stream goes, because I'm out and about right now. And I literally, like, I gasped when I saw the picture. That was my number 3 most wanted figure for like years now. And to see that it's finally coming, I'm very, very excited. But yeah, awesome stuff. Like that being on the same pipeline as a Phase 1 Rex and
I know,
and some of the other characters. Yeah, I never thought it was going to happen, but
no, yeah. For me, even just like seeing the pictures after, because I think, I was at work, so I couldn't check on most of it.
Yeah.
Commando droid, absolute banger, because we've wanted droids for so long. And we finally got the B2 and the Droideka, so it was only a matter of time. So now people can finally droid army build. But Bakara, totally awesome. We knew that was coming from the leaks. But Phase 1 Rex was just one of those figures that you would say in like a top wish list kind of a thing, because it sometimes annoy people. But I could not believe that they were doing that. And it's from Ahsoka. So that's really, really cool to see.
Yeah, dude. It kind of made me wonder if, and I think Hasbro usually pipelines them as a 2-pack, but I was wondering if the Anakin and Rex would be a 2-pack because they're from the same flashbacks. But I think they might release them separately.
That would make sense if it was a separate release, but still, just having a Rex, unbelievable. I mean, they did just do it in the Hot Toy though, too, right?
They did. Mm-hmm.
So maybe we should have seen it from that coming. Maybe they'll do a Lego next. Who knows? But I'm over the moon about that like version of Rex. I just had Commander Cook, shout out Commander Cook, Amazing Customs, make one for my brother. And I mean, the detail that he put into his was like really, really good. But now I'm like, oh, it's an official thing now. That's cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so, I mean, other than that, SDCC they had great reveals for the products. But again, there was no real, like, Star Wars, like, media news until today when as of recording this, when they revealed Skeleton Crew as the official release date being December 3rd.
Very out of the blue release, and because I'm pretty sure it was yesterday, too, the Skeleton Crew Lego set is on shelves at some Target locations. I think it's street dated, so it isn't like an official reveal yet, but it's there for like the next wave. And it just feels so awkward with the marketing at this point, because now it's like people have known Skeleton Crew was next, and we've had leaked images and such. So now just to finally today be like, oh yeah, Skeleton Crew, that comes out December 3rd. And like that be it is just such a flop.
Yeah. I'm reading some of the article because it was revealed by People magazine, had like the exclusive first look.
And they did images.
Described as, quote, a joyful, and the show, Jude Law, the guy who's like the main character in it, describes it as joyful and says that the kids will, quote, maneuver through places where they shouldn't be. So I from what I understand, the premise of the show is that it's a bunch of kids that are like running from like pirates or something that are trying to kidnap kids. And then they end up like in a galaxy far, far away. I think, like I said, I do think this is going to be the show that kind of brings Ahsoka and Sabine back to the main galaxy.
That would be interesting.
Because I think that this is supposed to take place like in a separate galaxy.
Oh.
Yeah.
See, that would be really cool too, because now that we've established another galaxy that people can travel to, it would be cool to see what else happens in that, because at least from the planet, Peridia, the only planet we've seen, the technology is still very like outdated compared to the rest of the universe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm just kind of looking through the article right now. Just Jude Law was the one that they interviewed, and like the director and writer of the show. And so then at the end here, I think this is a very interesting quote. But you don't have to know everything about Star Wars to enjoy the show. You can come into it completely fresh and enjoy the story. But if you do happen to be a Star Wars superfan, there's a lot for you. I'm not going to lie. After The Acolyte, I question the validity of that statement.
That's true. Because maybe that's just, I mean, granted, The Mandalorian was even one of those like shows that you're supposed to be able to go into. But I will argue that their season 1 was like for fresh Star Wars fans. But
yeah,
I guess we'll have to see. I'm excited that it's new media, but I just know so many people are just going to trash on it for being a kid's show. Be like, this is what Disney had to make.
I don't know. I'm really hopeful that it's going to be good, but I think we touched on this last week or the week before. I really just don't. This is one of those like I don't have any hype for it. None. Zero. I'm not upset the show is coming out. I'm not, disappointed that it's coming out. Hopefully it's good. And hopefully it's like the dark horse that I really enjoy, like Andor was. Wasn't hyped for Andor, and then Andor was amazing,
Exactly. And they just haven't showed us more of it to care about it. It's just a few images right now. So
that's a good point.
Maybe they'll release some trailers and that'll kind of like hook our attention more, but we're just here for the Star Wars content.
Yeah. But I mean, that's really all I got on that. So, you guys can look out December 3rd. Obviously, we will be covering The Acolyte week to week here on the podcast.
We're not covering The Acolyte. We're covering Skeleton Crew, Tommy.
We'll be covering
a brain rot moment and went, I forgot what we were talking about now.
We're going to be covering Skeleton Crew week to week starting in December. So if you want to check out that, if you want to keep up with the show, listen to us either say it's hot, steaming garbage or say that it's the dark horse of Star Wars content, you can check out our pod. So, but Jackson, I believe we have a weekly topic.
We do, but before we get into that, I also was just going to caveat and say, because we only have a little bit of information now about Skeleton Crew, D23 will be coming at the end of the year.
Oh.
So that will probably have the trailer. That will probably have, because Disney was probably waiting for their shareholders to be in one area to show off the product.
Probably.
Because then maybe we might get Andor info.
That's true. I think Andor's probably coming beginning of 2025. It seems like
is what we are thinking to that. But okay, now we'll get back to the main topic of the video. So today's video, kind of like loosely titled more so, is just like Star Wars, like things you might not know, or just crazy fan theories in general. Now, the iceberg that Tommy has displayed was created and put on Reddit by user Nadaria45. I was figuring out how to say that. And then it was featured in a video by one of my most favorite YouTubers ever, Wendigoon, who covers Iceberg content and just general like creepy like topics and such. So we aren't going to go over everything in this list. This is more so just going to kind of be like a fun little chat about like, did you know this about this topic? Because there is a lot in this, but in the video for the iceberg and a couple of the sections, the topics were just briefly like, this is what this means, to then like go over it. But we kind of want to go more in depth on a few things that are in there and what they might bring to light about Star Wars lore for y'all.
For sure. So Jackson's going to take the reins on this topic. So Jackson, just let me know which ones you want to really talk about, and we'll just jump into it.
Yeah, here, I think it's probably one of the ones at the very top. And this is a very well-known fact, too, if you kind of followed Star Wars for a while, was I think it's called original script on the iceberg. And I couldn't tell you what tier that is because I'm not going to make myself or the viewers squint at it. But it's just more so hinting at that for the original script of Star Wars, it was called The Adventures of Luke Starkiller instead of Skywalker. And if you follow George Lucas in interviews, you would know that Skywalker was the new name because Starkiller sounded too evil. And then they ended up reusing that for a video game later. So that was kind of a W that we got to have that. But yeah, I don't know if a lot of people may have still enjoyed Star Wars if it was about Luke Starkiller, but even if it is just a name, does it really matter?
Yeah, Luke Starkiller was actually supposed to be a female in the beginning as well. Like I have there's a concept art Funko Pop that I have, and there's some Ralph McQuarrie concept art where she was Luke Skywalker was a female. And if you didn't know, go ahead.
Oh yeah, you go.
If you didn't know, it's Luke S. So regardless of Starkiller or Skywalker, Luke S as in Lucas, George Lucas. That's why that's the correlation there.
That was another one mentioned in the video too that Wendigoon did. Was I forget what tier this is because again I'm not going to like stare at it too hard, but it's on the iceberg because it was recorded as an exchange that I think it was Harrison Ford had with George Lucas, where he proposed that Boba Fett should be a woman because wouldn't that be like really like cool if like the helmet came off at some point in Return of the Jedi and we're like, whoa, it's actually a girl. And then
she's hot.
That's stupid. And then that's apparently what had happened in that interaction. So the validity of that one, that's not the Boba Fett. That was just put on there because I saw your mouse point at it. That's just like a dummy thing because that's kind of a popular thing to do too with some icebergs is just throw like the most obscure things like towards the bottom of it, but it doesn't actually mean anything. And Boba Fett's just one that doesn't mean anything. It's supposed to be like a real throw off topic too.
So weird. People are so weird.
Yeah. I mean, for me, at least that one's just funny. Even some of the other ones at the bottom are questionable too. Like, you know what? I'm not even going to go into those. Did you have one, Tommy, too, that you wanted to check out or even discuss?
I was honestly just surprised at how much stuff on this iceberg was stuff that I feel like most Star Wars fans know.
Yeah.
Like the Overlords, the Mortis stuff, Luke.
Yeah.
I feel like most people know about stuff like that.
I think it's on here too, and that might even just be a good thing because kind of speaking on like Mortis and the overworlds, do you know what the Book of the Wills is?
Oh, dude, I'm gonna sound like such a fake fan because I do know what it has to do with the Force. But the specifics of it escape me at this time.
That's okay. So the Book of the Wills, on the bottom that Tommy was just putting his cursor around, is supposed to be the recorded lore of like all of Star Wars. So what we see in the movies is a movie version of what is recorded in the Book of the Wills. And so part of that too, for the argument, is that are things in the Book of the Wills altered or made to be different so that we interpret things in Star Wars a certain way, or we might perceive characters as good or bad? Because this is definitely at the top, because this is more of just like a fan like theory and speculation that when the Blu-ray yeah, when the Blu-ray edition of Star Wars was created, where it had like all the additional scenes and like Greedo shoots first instead of Han, that it's meant to be rebel propaganda. And that's why the scenes are edited, is because you don't want to watch the original Star Wars movie and convince people to join the Rebel Alliance if Han shoots first and he looks like an aggressor. That's why you make Greedo shoot first and then Han skillfully dodge out of the way like that and then shoot Greedo, because then he's the good guy because he defended himself. And
yeah, Han said bye-bye.
Mute on Greedo real quick. But yeah. But that kind of ties in with the Book of the Wills, because people argue that the Star Wars universe is always being manipulated and that whoever is transcribing the Book of the Wills is doing it for their own like agenda, and we just get to see like what it is from there.
Yeah. I've seen that theory given by talked about by George Lucas. Sam Witwer did an interview where he talked about how he was asking George about, well, shouldn't this happen this way because of this? And George said to him, well, the stories are only told by the perspective of one character or one group of characters. So you can have multiple stories that happen at the same time that are told different ways because it's from the perspectives of different characters. And I feel like that feeds into the validity of that theory right there with the Book of the Wills. Mm-hmm. Straight from the mouth of George Lucas himself.
Yeah, and a lot of the topics that are on here too were here because it was mentioned by George, or it was from interviews with stuff too. So not a lot of the content on here is kind of Disney age focused as well. There is like a Mandalorian bit or two, but nothing too crazy.
Yeah. I also like the typo for the R5D4 one.
Yeah. Here was an interesting one, was that so for those who had watched and unfortunately suffered through the Star Wars Holiday Special, if you remember all of those years ago when Leia, Luke, Han, and Chewbacca are traveling to the Wookiees' home world, it's called Kashyyyk, and that's where Chewbacca's family is. So the Iceberg mentions that on here, that maybe there is another Wookiee-based planet besides Kashyyyk, because Kashyyyk is then brought in Episode 3 during the battle between the droids and the clones there, and where Yoda's kind of hanging out too. But there could be another Wookiee home world. They just never meant, because they never wrote it off.
Yeah, Star Wars is one of those weird like franchises where I've seen a lot of people recently say this. I think people treat the lore of Star Wars as this sacred, very linear timeline.
Yes.
Where a lot of stuff is completely untouchable and you can never change anything. But I think an important thing to realize with Star Wars as a franchise that makes it unique is that Star Wars has been retconning itself since the beginning. Star Wars has been changing things, updating things, retconning things, and they do it all the time. It's been a thing well before Disney bought the franchise in 2013. George, whether it was the special editions, changing the titles of the movies, adding in new characters, different things. I mean, even in the original cut for A New Hope, Jabba was just a big fat guy, just a human. And then by the time of Return of the Jedi, they changed him to be a Hutt. So that's why Jabba's CGI in that scene in the special edition of A New Hope, because originally he was just a fat guy that Han just like bullies and walks around in the hangar.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, yeah, nothing is completely linear. So that's why you have to be open to changes in the timeline, or when things are introduced with new shows, to be like, that destroys this plot. It's like when season 7 of the Clone Wars came out, not a lot of people really complained about this anyway, but there was already an established Ahsoka book about what happens after the events of the Clone Wars in the middle of it. And season 7 of the Clone Wars completely wipes the floor with the book. Says that is no longer like what happens to Ahsoka kind of a thing. So again, it's always changing. So you have to be fluid and able to adapt with the minor tweaks that they want to make in the story. Because until it's shown on screen, then it isn't technically canon.
Yeah, that's something that I watch a lot of Star Wars podcasts, while I listen to them while I'm at work and stuff. And there's a lot of podcasts that get really caught up on, and again, these are the same podcasts that are really focused on, the writing, the pacing, the dialogue, the blah, blah, blah. But they get really caught up in, well, they changed this from a book. And I thought that the books also were definitive canon. Why are they changing it? Blah, blah. It's like, dude, this ain't no Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
This franchise is completely different, and they will change stuff on a dime. They might wake up tomorrow and decide they want to change something. Like it literally happens that quickly. It's a fictional universe. Like it's one of those things that you don't need to be so focused on the continuity. There's so much that doesn't make sense anyway.
Yeah, exactly. Here is one. Sorry, I was just going through really quick, just checking my list. Here was just like a detail, but it was even brought back into the Acolyte, was that Han Solo is the only character in Star Wars to mention hell in any capacity. And then in the Acolyte, May mentions it again. So the whole point of adding this to the Iceberg on it, it's listed as Solo's hell, is what do these characters perceive about afterlives and religions and such, whereas we know that there are forms of religion in quotations in Star Wars because cultures might have mystical beliefs about the Force and call it something different. Other people might worship the Mortis gods, etc. So for Solo to mention hell, it's asking the question of what is that supposed to be, because now May has also used that, so it's not only exclusive to Solo.
Yeah, I believe it's in Empire Strikes Back. They're on Hoth, and Han is gearing up on his Tauntaun to go find Luke, and someone says, "You'll die out there," and he's like, "Then I'll see you in hell."
Yeah, and he does it in the Solo movie.
I think you could really chalk that up to, I think what's cool though about these icebergs is that we're trying to find in-universe reasons, but I mean, obviously though, it was, more of a writing thing. They were just they're not thinking about these characters and the implications of there being a hell in Star Wars. They're just making the characters talk.
Exactly. Yeah.
With the script. But, I think it's cool that we're kind of looking at it from a bigger picture here and being like, okay, let's try and make this work in the canon. I don't know, dude. I don't know. I feel like I don't
really know there's a way to explain that in the canon. That's the hard part.
Yeah. But
maybe we'll have to
I see Abeloth is on the tier list here.
Which one is that?
Abeloth. She is the second to last picture.
Yeah. They never mention the pictures in the ice. I think it's more so just to be like it's an obscure topic. So that's why it's on there. So, I mean, starts with Luke because everyone knows Luke, makes it down to Nice Noodles, which is kind of funny.
Yeah.
But.
Yeah. So, fun fact, actually, I don't know if we ever covered this on the podcast. Did you hear that there's rumors going around that they're going to cast someone to be Abeloth for Ahsoka season 2?
I heard that from the rumor mill, but I would be genuinely surprised if they bring that level of a character into the televised lore.
I'm gonna keep up with my theory. I know I said this back when Ahsoka came out, when the finale came out, that there's a reason there's the Mortis statues, and there's a reason that the father is pointing to something, and there's a reason that the witches want to get the hell out of there.
Yeah. No,
I'm of the opinion that Abeloth will be. I think probably defeated in this, in this Ahsoka season 2. But I think that she's definitely going to make an appearance, aka the mother.
Mm-hmm. Got it. Tommy, here's a question for you. Can you tell me what species Yoda is?
No, he's a gremlin.
He's a gremlin.
He's a gremlin.
So the species of Yoda in the Star Wars canon has never been officially confirmed. And that was because George Lucas, at the time of making it, wanted to make Yoda's species a constant mystery and just one of those things that nobody had ever known. Until a toy publishing company had produced a action figure of Yoda, and on the packaging of that action figure, it said that Yoda's species was listed as a Lanix, Lanix. So maybe that would be something that I don't actually think they will ever officially confirm what species Yoda is, because it's just one of those mysteries of Star Wars they want to leave open-ended. But I feel like if they were going to, it very well could be just like, oh yeah, it's a Lanix kind of a thing.
Well, here's a fun fact, and I get this from some Star Wars graphic novels I used to read when around Phantom Menace came out.
Yes.
The Lanix species is actually Even Peel's species. If you remember Jedi Master Even Peel.
Oh crap!
He's like the, I guess more white skin toned looking Jedi that has ears like Yoda.
Crap! I'm looking.
He's in the Citadel arc. He's the Jedi that they're rescuing from the Citadel.
Yeah, no, you're right. Crap.
So he is a Lanix, and there's a whole thing in this one graphic novel. I forget the specific name of it, but it's a really cool comic book. They have like it's mostly Mace Windu. They have Quinlan Vos in there. There's a whole story with Sharad Het. He's a Tusken Jedi. And there's a whole thing with him, but there's a whole storyline where they go to Even Peel's like people, and there's like a mafia of Lanix that are trying to kill, like I forget, some sort of nobility or royalty or something, and it's a really cool storyline. But for that's the only reason I know that species. But yeah, so I could see where that product would have thought Yoda would be a Lanix because they have similar ear shapes. But aside from that. What?
This was pre-Clone Wars and prequels too.
Yeah. So interesting that they decided to go that route with it with Even Peel. But yeah, there's a whole thing. I forget again. I know I have the graphic novel. It's at my parents' house, but yeah.
See, that's something I didn't know too. So that was kind of cool. But yeah, it was officially listed first as a Lanix. But yeah, okay. Now as Tommy is corrected, a Lanix is already something in Star Wars.
In canon, yes.
Yes, in canon. So never mind. If it was something, they'd have to make it completely different.
Or they could just say Yoda has like some sort of like, I don't know, he has like jaundice or something like that, and he like
Yoda definitely sold me Fent behind a Walgreens, bro.
Yeah, Yoda got sold some Fent behind a sheets or something, and then it all went downhill from there. There was a lot. I will say there was a lot on this that I knew, and honestly, that was kind of like made me feel big brain that I knew a lot of this stuff.
Was there anything that you didn't know from looking at it too?
Yes. Let me look. So the Black Angel.
That was something really specific. I can't even remember that. I'd have to rewatch.
Neither do I.
Right next to it is Turkish Star Wars, and that was because right after the OT was made, a filming company in Turkey made like their own like rip-off version of Star Wars and promoted it there.
Yeah, losers. Yeah, so there was a bunch on here though, like the Jabba the Hutt human we talked about a little bit already. The 1313 reference. Yeah,
the 1313 on the iceberg, I think, was a goated one to put.
I agree. Yeah, and then
though, I would say just because now this iceberg was made 4 or 5 years ago now. Yeah. So some of the stuff, I doubt, at least when we talk to people about our channel, most people don't know what 1313 is or was, except people our age that were like, oh, that was the game.
Yeah, well, and as more time passes too, less and less people know what 1313 is because it got canceled in 2013. So it's more and more people that come into this fandom, they don't know anything about level 1313. So it makes our name a lot more of a deep cut.
Yeah, and it's only mentioned a few times in passing in the Clone Wars.
Yeah. Let's see. Is there anything else on this that I really wanted to cover?
One of the funnier ones too that I thought was the Weezer discography parallel was that as movies of Star Wars came out, Weezer, like with their albums and with like fan response, like went significantly down. So it's supposed to argue that like as more Star Wars content comes out, Weezer declines and nobody wants to listen to Weezer anymore, which is really just random and funny, but yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, man, I mean, it's a super cool Iceberg if you want to, check out the full thing. I mean, I'm trying to think if there's anything else like that we could just rattle off that like we know. Like obviously Clone Wars Lost episodes. That's an interest. There's some interesting lore behind that. And honestly, I would like to see them make that. Like make the rest of those episodes.
No, you see when this Iceberg is old enough that when the Clone Wars Lost episodes was put on it, it was directly referencing the Bad Batch episodes from season 7 that were never developed. But yeah, it wasn't talking about the rest of them though, because now that's made, the other ones are technically the Lost ones and not the Bad Batch ones.
Yep, and that just goes to show like it's an older code, sir, but it checks out. Yeah, but there's more here, like the
Overlords was funny because the scene on Naboo, there's just regular ducks, and it's supposed to be like, oh, how could there be a regular duck in Star Wars kind of a thing.
That was like, I think it was the old Ewok movies from the 80s or 90s, the Ewok Adventures movies, Battle for Endor and Caravan of Courage, I think they were called. They just had straight up like farm animals, just like chickens and everything else. Like it was, I remember as a kid, I didn't think anything of it.
How that's supposed to fit into the lore, though, at least that I saw a few people trying to debate, was that if there are regular ducks or farm animals, that only goes to show that's the general evolutionary path that creatures are going to take to achieve that final form. So there's ducks in Star Wars because there were other species that before that evolved into ducks, since the duck is the prime like species that it can become. Same with the horses, because then there's horses in Rise of Skywalker from Endor, and people are like, how are there horses on Endor? We never saw that. But like you said, in Caravan of Courage, they're there. So that's supposed to be part of the explanation for it.
That's interesting. It's also totally budget reasons. Like there's just regular lizards and snakes on Dagobah in Empire Strikes Back. Like it's just like to make it look more alive.
Mm-hmm. Oh, 100%. Yeah. The snake that came with the Yoda action figure.
Yeah, that snake still comes with Yoda action figures from Empire to this day.
Yeah. Do you know about the C-3PO card misprint?
No.
Oh my gosh. So my dad has this. So if you're not a member of the Discord, join the Discord. So when they were creating Topps trading cards for Star Wars, and in the process of doing so to gather photos, some of the people editing them had put a schlong on C-3PO and said, ha, 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 isn't that really funny? What if C-3PO had a schlong? And nobody caught it. And it got put onto the final product. So the final product of the Topps trading card, pretty sure it was Topps, for the cards have a schlong C-3PO. And then Topps had to recall all of the cards and then print a new version of the C-3PO. But the new version of the C-3PO is actually more rare than the schlong version, because there's more schlong 3POs than regular ones that were created. Wild. So my dad has both in like a frame together, actually.
That's funny. People are so messed up, dude.
It was
I think it was Topps, though. I think they've always done the trading cards.
That's what I was gonna say. I'm very, very certain it was Topps, and if it wasn't, then I'll actually be like genuinely surprised by that. But that was one that I thought was pretty funny.
The last one I feel like is worth mentioning is Mandalorian G's.
Yeah. So the point of adding that was that a lot of the person who created this Iceberg and a lot of other people who kind of back this one want to argue that Christianity exists in the Star Wars universe because of the references of hell And because someone in The Mandalorian said G's, and G's is short for Jesus, so therefore there must be a God in Star Wars, is their argument. And so I feel like that's a very weak argument. I do think it's a little bit strange when our words are kind of put into Star Wars. That's why I like fun things like Dane Fair, like, that silly Star Wars cuss word kind of a thing.
Carabas.
People start saying damn and shit, and the rest it's like, come on, kind of. But I mean, I'm not going to totally bash and say, that was poor writing. They could have done better. It is what it is. I don't actually care that much. But that's the argument for having the G's in The Mandalorian.
That's kind of how I felt like when like Poe in Rise of Skywalker is like, oh, what the hell? Like, I don't know. It just kind of bugged me a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, again, for some people, I guess it's just, it is what it is. It's a part of the writing. But I mean, like, if you're a true like a basement troll nerd, you're like, you can't see that. You can't see that.
Well, it's like when Andor said shit in the first episode or the first or second episode of Andor. And I was like,
shit in Star Wars.
Have you seen the whole thing about Marva's speech in the final episode?
Oh, yeah. How she wanted to say I'm not going to say it on the show, but she wanted to say the F word. And if you don't know what
say it, you get one. You get one.
I get one.
We're 45 minutes in.
She was going to say the fuck word. And the people writing the script at the time had told her that she couldn't do that because it was too like out of character and out of universe for Star Wars, which I guess because I think South Park does a really good job at saying this too. Words like shit and damn, just once you've used them enough, they're not really curse words anymore. They're just general things. And most people don't even see them as curse words anymore.
They're like expletives,
you know? Because we've aged out of it, and there's worse ones now that you could argue. So to use that in Star Wars, I can understand, but to use the F word, I'm like, nah.
I feel like it's too American. And even like when Cassian said shit, I was like, it just feels too like American earthly. I again, like you said, when characters say things like Dank Farrik or Carabast or like blast or something like that, I'm like, okay, like it keeps me in the universe. Like I still don't feel like, you know, it's just an American actor saying something. Whereas when Diego Luna says that, I'm like,
Yeah.
You know, they also said hell in the Clone Wars.
That is true, because you mentioned Poe Dameron saying that, and now you're mentioning it from the Clone Wars. Okay, so more than one person has mentioned hell that they didn't record on the Iceberg. So I'll blame the person who made that.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, there was, I think it was Heavy in the Rookies episode after, was it Cut Up gets eaten by the Rishi eel?
Yeah.
Yeah, he said, what the hell was that? I remember, I won't lie, I remember as a kid watching that episode, and when that happened and Heavy said that, my heart dropped, and I was like, my mom's not going to let me watch this show.
Yes, thank you, because as soon as you said hell, and because now this is all like flooding back to me, as soon as you said, what the hell was that? It was like, my mom can't see this. She won't let me watch it now.
Yeah, I remember like looking, like I was watching it with my dad, and I like shot a look over at him, like my dad just like completely unfazed, like, okay, so I must be allowed to watch the show then. He
had the Chad stare at the TV, like, yeah, this is fine.
Bye.
I was trying to think of anything on my back pocket too that was kind of like a did you know, kind of like a Star Wars thing, or like what's your best, I guess, like fun fact too about Star Wars if you like are talking to someone.
I think we would do a really good job if we made just a general Star Wars iceberg, because I feel like we know enough about the franchise and enough about like behind the scenes stuff. Like I would totally put something like on like somewhere middle of there, like Anchorhead. Anchorhead is a deleted scene from A New Hope. Yeah. And it's like a bar where Luke goes to hang out with his friends. And that's in the original cut of A New Hope. That's where you first meet Biggs Darklighter. And then it's not like just this random thing in the final cut of the movie where he's like, Biggs, my friend. And everybody's like, who's this guy? But yeah, so funnily enough, then in the Book of Boba Fett, you have those characters, the same actors from, or not the same actors, but those characters from the Anchorhead scene are in the bar that the Nikto speed bikers are in. That Boba Fett comes and beats up all the Nikto speed bikers.
Mm-hmm. No, yeah, that's like a really, really solid connection too.
Yeah,
Or
I
even
would put
just
that like middle of the road, you know, because it's like it's a deleted scene, but they name drop Anchorhead in the movie still.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if I had to pull out one real quick too, it would just be that when Ray Park, probably like a middle of the tier Iceberg thing, like you said too, when Ray Park was shooting,
He made that post on Instagram. Oh, you're not talking about that? My bad.
No, bro, we were not talking about that. No, but when he was playing as Darth Maul, he forgot to take one of the piercings out of his ear here.
Oh, yeah.
So because he left the piercing in, George said, well, I guess Darth Maul canonically has an ear piercing. So in Rebels, in action figures, in Clone Wars, in every other part of media that Darth Maul is in, he has the same golden ear piercing like around here on his ear.
Yeah, he was. I think that he said that the reason he wanted to get it was because it's like generally frowned upon for like martial artists to have piercings like that. So he was like, I'm just gonna get one. Forget it. Yeah, that's a good one. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. Oh, I mean, here's a good one, and I know this does show up on some like Clone Wars icebergs. Darth Revan in the Clone Wars.
Yeah, that is true.
Darth Revan was supposed to show up in the Mortis arc, and then he didn't.
Here was another one too that I completely forgot about. Kind of a deeper cut too. Do you know? Are you familiar with R2KT?
Yep.
Okay, yeah. So for those of you who might not know too, R2KT was a droid that a person had made for their daughter with cancer, and they used it, and it kind of partnered with the 501st to do like raise awareness for like cancer foundations and such. And to homage that, in the Clone Wars episode with the droids, like on their little mission where they find Gregor, the pink astromech droid is supposed to be R2KT. And I'm pretty sure R2KT's in other things besides the Clone Wars, if I'm right.
R2KT was in the Clone Wars movie. She was in, her and R2 are like, there's a scene where they're standing right next to each other when they're about to go to Teth. Yeah. And then I'm pretty sure that Colonel Meeber Gascon name drops R2KT. Like that's confirmed her by name in that whole arc.
Mm-hmm. And they even did, I'm pulling up just they even did like an action figure for it too.
Yep.
To commemorate it.
Yeah.
Dude, we should just make a Star Wars iceberg. That would be so cool.
I feel like we would make a good one. Like, I feel like we would make seriously a good one.
We should just start like listing topics in like a shared like thing. I mean, I don't use the dang shared Google document ever, but maybe we should use the shared Google document for once and just start like listing topics. I think that would be pretty cool. You know what? If you want to see us make a definitive Star Wars iceberg that is updated and with deeper cut lore stuff than what we were talking to you about today, shoot us a comment. And then if you have something that you want to add to that iceberg, throw that in there too. And then maybe we'll add it on.
Yeah, we did a 1313 podcast iceberg. I think we'd be pretty good at making a Star Wars general like lore iceberg as well.
Yeah, just because at least when you look up Star Wars iceberg, I'm pretty sure the one. I mean, there's some pretty big ones out there actually. No, there's some pretty deep cut ones. But the one that I was showing us today was one of the top search results.
On Reddit, right?
Yeah. No, but the newest one that they have on Reddit is actually like a lot more in depth. Oh, and it specializes too because at the top it says it's all canon material that it discusses and not like legends.
Yeah. I feel like that would be our weakest point would be discussing Legends material. I do know that there's one where like Chewbacca dies. I would put that on there. Because in Legends, there's one like a moon crashes onto a planet and like Chewbacca ends up dying.
Yeah, no, that's true. But we have a lot of things that we could talk about too still.
For sure. Especially, I feel like a lot of it, like we could do for a lot of the newer Star Wars media, like a lot of the behind the scenes stuff and, you know, a lot of the stuff that happened and with actors, directors, like things like that.
Yeah. Maybe we should.
Yeah. I mean, I don't have anything else if you don't.
No, I can't think of anything else to honestly put in for this week. But if you ended up knowing something that we talked about, still leave a comment down below. Or if you want to share your own Star Wars fun fact with us, also do that too. We'd be more than happy to keep discussing in the comments. But thought this would be a little bit more of a fun episode because I've been promoting the podcast to a lot of people recently, and they're like, oh, well, what do you do? And I'm like, oh, it's anything and everything Star Wars. I'm like, you know what would be a fun one to do? Just like facts or things that you might not know about Star Wars.
Yeah. I agree. But yeah, so I guess with that, guys, thank you for checking out another episode of the 1313 podcast. Make sure to check out our social media, which is linked in the description below. We have a Discord. You should join it. It's free to join. Gets you in touch with other Star Wars collectors, photographers, fans, a very positive Star Wars community. Channel membership here on YouTube for 99 cents a month. You get reviews early and exclusive stickers and badges in the comment section. And we have a Patreon. Thank you to the Patreon supporters. Well, I guess yesterday, as of when you see this, we gave away this. Whoa. And then we actually have a whole pile of items. If you're in the Gungan Boss tier of Patreon, you will get to vote on what the next giveaway will be. So if you want to get some say in what the next thing we give away is, we have a bunch of items piled up. You can get in on that. We're going to be posting that on Patreon and in the Oto Gunga Patreon exclusive chat in the Discord. You'll be able to get in on voting to pick what the next giveaway will be for the Patreon. So with that, that's all I got. I've been Tommy. That's been Jackson. And we will
the right way. There we go.
We'll see you guys on the next episode of the most mediocre podcast in the Star Wars universe. Goodbye.
Bye. Buy the merch. Give us money.
Hey, this is Vanessa Marshall. I play Hera Syndulla on Star Wars Rebels, and you're listening to the 1313 podcast.
Dun, 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 dun. Dun, 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 dun. Dun, 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 dun. Dun, 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 dun. Dun, 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 dun. Dun, 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 dun. Dun, 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 dun. Dun, 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 dun. Hum da da hum da da hum dum dum da. Hum da da dum dum da dum. Ba-do ba-do, ba-do ba-do, ba-do ba-dum, ba-ba-dum, ba-dum, ba-do ba-dum, ba-do ba-dum dum. Hum da dum hum dum 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 dum. Hum dum da dum hum da da hum dum da da. Hey, I'm da dum da dum da. Hum da dum da dum da dum da. Dum da da ba da dum dum da ba ba da ba da da da.